Shalom everyone, and today we're going to study Parashat VaYak'hel, book of Exodus, the book of Exodus, chapter 35, verse 1. ויקל משה את כל עדת בני ישראל, ויאמר עליהם, אל הדברים אשר ציווה אדוני לעשות אותם. And Moses gathered the whole congregation of the children of Israel, and he says to them, he tells them, these are the things that Hashem, God, ordered you to do. And he starts with Shabbat, and then he goes into the building of the tabernacle, which is almost identical to the Parashat Terumah that we just read a few weeks ago. So the question is, why the repetition? And what is the message of this parasha, especially the name of the parasha, VaYak'hel, and he gathered, but the shoresh, every Hebrew word has a shoresh, of a source, is Kuf Hei Lamed, which is the same source of the word Kahal, Kehila, congregation or community. So what is the connection? And that will be hopefully the topics of today's study. So first of all, we have to understand one thing that the Zohar already starts to explain to us in the beginning of the Zohar about Parashat VaYak'hel. And the Zohar is starting with a story that happened later on. It's described in the book of Samuel 1, chapter 15. And over there, it speaks about the first king of Israel, King Shaul. And the moment he is the king of the nation, then the rule applies, the law, that he has to remove the Amalek, destroy the Amalek. And this is the order. Pakadati tasher asam Amalek Yisrael, and I won't go into that too much, but because that's not what the Zohar is trying to lead us to, is speaking a little bit about Amalek and how when you're being attacked by people that are full of hatred, you have simply to remove them because otherwise they'll attack you again. But this is the story of the mitzvah of eliminating the Amalek. But this is not the story right now that we want to focus on. And the story is that we find it in verse 5 in the Zohar Parashat VaYak'hel. תחזי מה כתיב, ויאמר שאול על הקיני, מן קיני, דה יתרו, וכי מן יהיב בני יתרו, הכה למעבד דיורן בעמלק, דה בירכו אבו שריין, אלא דה הכתיב, ובני קיני חותן משה, עלו מעיר התמרים את בני יהודה, מדבר יהודה. וחד עלו מתאמן, שרו בתחומה עד עמלק. Before the war is starting, before King Shaul is declaring war over the Amalek, that they dwelled at that time in the southern part of Israel, around the northern Negev, and he warns the clan of Jethro, that since the time of Yitro, they were hanging around, but they were not part of the nation of Israel, but they were kind of affiliated with it. And what happened is that they used to live around Jericho, but we learned that they moved to the northern part of Israel, and they were living around the same territories the Amalek was. So, and before Shaul the king and his army, the first time a king running an army in the history of the Israel, in the land of Israel. So before that, he warns the children of Yitro, that tribe, to get out of that area so they won't get hurt. Okay, what's the message for us? Verse 6, משום כי בזמן שנמצאים רשעים, אלו החסידים והצדיקים הנמצאים ביניהם, נתפסים בעוונם. It is to teach us that whenever there are wicked people, evil people, and when they get hurt, when they get punished, or they get, we'll explain it later on, but when they create a calamity with their evil behavior, that hurts the righteous who live among them. And the righteous are being caught in the chaos they're generating. And therefore, King Shaul had to remove the children of Yitro from Amalek, and the same thing, לולא אותו הערב רב שנתחברו בישראל, לא היו נענשים ישראל על חטא העגל. And that brings us to, without the Erev Rav, who are the Erev Rav? So the Arizal, Rabbi Zaklura, is teaching us when, it's also mentioned a few times in the Zohar, when Moses was going to leave Egypt with the nation of Israel, with the 12 tribes of Israel, the Zohar is teaching us the greatest sorcerers and warlocks and magicians of Egypt, who had great souls, they asked Moses to join the nation of Israel. And Moses allowed them to join, and they were called Erev Rav, the Zohar explains, because they were doing special magic, that the magic's name was Erev Rav. A lot of commentators translate the word Erev Rav, a multitude of nations. And the Zohar does not agree to this kind of interpretation, because he said they were all Egyptians. They were not, who did they take out of Egypt? They were the Hebrews, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they were Egyptians. There were no Hungarians or Poles or Finnish or Arabs. They were not in Egypt. They were only the Israelites and the Egyptians. So who came with the Israelites? Egyptians. So when it says Erev Rav, it could mean a multitude of nations. It doesn't say nation, it says it's a mixed, it's a big mix. That's a direct translation in Hebrew. Or Erev Rav, it means also a certain time between twilight. And that time, Erev Rav, is a time that special magic could be done, dark magic, and they were really specialized in that kind of a magic. That's why they were called Erev Rav. Why did they want to leave Egypt with Moses, and why did Moses accept them? Because they had, says the Zohar, they had souls very similar to the souls of the Israelites. However, they did not go through the purification of few hundred years of slavery in Egypt. And therefore, they were not ready yet to be able to give up their selfishness and simply follow the rules of the Torah that was given in Mount Sinai. They were uncomfortable all the time. They were always a reason for all kinds of riots and stuff like this. And they're just the great complainers. Nothing satisfied them. Why? When you feel in dis-ease with yourself, then everything bothers you. You have the tendency to blame everything outside of you, while really you have to look internally and find the responsibility over there, and only then your real spiritual journey of correction will start. Meanwhile, blaming the others, this is really, it doesn't help anyone to improve, because blaming others, it means till they change, I can never change. And what's the problem with that? It says, thou shalt not have another God. It's said on Mount Sinai. That's number 2. Why? when the moment you wait for somebody to change in order for your life to become better, you are out of the game. You're not playing the game of correction, because you have faith in a fact that is fake. What does it mean? That if somebody changes, your life will become better. Now, whoever waits for somebody else to change will keep on waiting, because our job is to improve based on our own activity, our own responsibility, our own transformation. Your life can never change because of somebody else's improvement. And if they change and you didn't change, somebody else will come and harass you in the same way, because the change has to start, first of all, inside each one of us. However, when you have people that constantly are looking for blame, shaming of others, hurting others, because the moment the state of mind, it's somebody else's fault. This is the Erev Rav mentality, which means someone that is so in such a low level of spiritual development that the darkness in that person's soul is so thick they cannot see that they need to change if they want their lives to be better. So what do? They keep blaming others for all what's going on with them, for all the wrong that is happening, because they have the feeling that by blaming others, they basically are taking the responsibility off their backs. And we know the moment you blame, that moment you're not responsible for your life anymore. And we learned at Mount Sinai Revelation that what we read in last Parashah, Ki Tisa, that whatever, if we can summarize the two tablets in one word, that was cherut, freedom. Freedom means that my happiness is independent of others' righteousness or wickedness. How could you do it in this world? Yes, that is the goal, and that is the main tool of consciousness for real spiritual growth. The moment you wait, okay, then you'll keep on waiting. So, how does that lead us to the parasha? We have to understand that this parasha, Parashat VaYak'hel, has been given by Moses to the Israelites on the day after Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day that is described in Parashat Ki Tisa. We read it yesterday. What was the Parashat Ki Tisa? Moses is coming down with the tablets, and he's coming down with a second set of the tablets on Yom Kippur with the secret of the 13 attributes and with forgiveness and atonement, to show us, doesn't matter how terrible our deeds could be, basically, we always need to keep on fighting for becoming better. And there's no place for despair, there's no place for giving up, because you can't stop the journey. You can delay, you can slow it down, but the sooner you get it, the better. So the moment Moses is coming down with the second set of tablets, Yom Kippur, and with the atonement, now the question is, now what? So the day after Yom Kippur, Moses is giving Parashat VaYak'hel, and what does it say? And so we read in the Zohar, and it says very simply as a result of what we just expressed. And it says, I'm reading verse 7 in the Zohar, Perush Sulam, Tachazi, Makti Bekadmitam et Kol ish asher yidvenu libo. L'achlela kula, begin debaa kudsha b'chu lemevad, ovada demaskena mikol sitrin, bemocha uklipa, ובגין דאבוי נון ערב רב בגביו, יתמר מאת כל איש אשר ידבנו ליבו, להכללה לון בינו יהודי ישראל, דינון מוחה, וכולו יתפקדו. Translation, come and see what does it say earlier in Parashat Truma, just in the beginning. That in the beginning of Parashat Truma, the message was everyone is invited to contribute, to participate in the great action of producing the tabernacle. Why? Because God wanted to make a project, an action of the Mishkan that will include all sides. B'moach u'v'klipa, in the inside and the outside, the brain and the shell outside the brain. This is the way the expression sounds like in Hebrew, which means the innermost and the outermost. And because the Erev Rav were amongst the Israelites, that's why it says, whoever wants to contribute, whoever wants to join and give a hand or give a heart, to include the Erev Rav who were external with the Israelites who were internal, and all of them could be included in making the Mishkan. Verse 8, אחר כך נטע מי למינו. And later on, each one took its own kind. And the Erev Rav, they chose their own side by making the golden calf. And a lot from the Israelites leaned after them, and they died later on. So the Erev Rav, they brought death and killing to Israel. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so God said, מכאן ולהלאה, from now on, מעשה המשכן לא יהיה אלא מצד ישראל בלבד. The project, the making of the tabernacle, is going to be only by the Israelites themselves, which means, is that separation? Is that discrimination? We'll come to it. Miyad, immediately, what does it say? The first verse in the Parashah, VaYak'hel Moshe et kol adat bnei Yisrael, and Moses congregated, gathered, as a community, the whole congregation of the nation of Israel, to exclude the Erev Rav, who were not children of Israel. They were Egyptians who came to convert into Judaism. However, that did not succeed that much. And then it says later on, take the contribution from you, not from everyone who wishes to join. So why did it say to gather them? Why the word VaYak'hel? Because the Erev Rav were amongst them, Moses had to congregate them and to separate them. Basically, it doesn't say separate, it says the word separate is not PC, to unite the Israelites as one. Okay, what do we learn from that? For now, for ourselves. So, one of the greatest books, according to my opinion, about success in this world of business is the book of Jim Collins, From Good to Better. And this book is basically the result of an scientific research that Collins did in checking. He checked out in the, I think it was in the Wall Street stock market. He checked out companies who were good, which means you could see their shares along a long time of in the market, and they were always making a yearly nice profit to the shareholders. And then something happened, and suddenly, it looks like suddenly, instead of just being good, they become excellent. And the shareholders are making exponential profits which means if the graph was going like this, the normal graph of making profit became like this, okay? So we are talking about Collins is trying to check out what happened in these companies that finally the outcome was such an amazing amazing productivity, amazing profit to the shareholders. And he found out that he just found about, I think, about 15 companies, and then it was basically only 10. But what was in common of all those companies that he searched, and they kept making those profits in such an amazing, unusual way. And he was, so the test was exactly what was the thing that happened inside the company. And that thing that happened inside the company fits exactly the words of the Zohar Parashat VaYak'hel. What happened was the change of the CEO of the company from a regular CEO that is always about show and about profit making and about setting goals, whatever the usual you study in business school, right? No, in these companies, and he found between 10 to 15 like this, in these companies, a new manager came, a new CEO, he did not follow what is studied in more regular business schools. He decided that his companies are going to take another route. And the route was about and then he called it first getting the right people on the bus, and then deciding together where the bus is going, which means what was really important was not to find the niche, to find the right products, to find the right customer base or the market. No, the first thing he was focusing on, and very slowly, is to get the right people on the bus. What does it mean? To get the company to change the buildup of the manpower, which means what was important to all those 10, 15 CEOs, to change the people working for the company, that there will be the people that have integrity, that are really basically ready to create a pure, good, or great community out of that company. First of all, the sense of community. What does it mean? All the complainers, all the people who are mongering all kinds of riots and this content and stuff like this, little by little, let them go, and bringing in instead people with high level of integrity, care, team workers, stuff like this. They didn't care in the beginning. So how were you going to make a lot of money? That was not the goal. The goal was to get the right people, to create a community of people that really care for each other, have integrity, and you can trust each one of them. You don't have to have tons of regulations and checking up and following people and testing people and all this stuff when you don't really trust the people. So as that process came to fruition, which means when the greater majority of the people in the company were of that integrity, and the whole company was more like a community of people that one for all and all for one, and there was a sense of unity and integrity and love among those people, then the CEO said, now that we have such a great spirit, we will decide together where will the bus go, which means we trusted that the decision-making will be without ego, without darkness, without all kinds of hidden agendas. And we will basically decide what to do, the right thing. We will already make the right decisions. And that's exactly what happened. So what happened was that slowly, the decision-making of the leadership of the company started to shift the company into directions they never even dreamt about before. And product management, all market planning, all of that stuff happened by itself. And they didn't even realize that the productivity level is rising so fast that they found themselves as the best companies in Wall Street. That is exactly the idea that the Zohar is teaching over here. You want to really go forward and make anything successful, you need the first thing to do. Rabbi Ashlag spoke about it also almost a century ago. When you create a community and you want your community to be a community that will create greatness, will create support, will support you in your journey towards becoming a better person. You have, first of all, to choose people with very high level of integrity, idealism, and altruism. This is a minority in the population. However, do not take egotistic people inside, because they will always look for blaming others. They will always look to get more than they take. You cannot deal with this kind of people when you start to build a community or a company. You have to start with the minority of the population, which are the people of integrity, idealism, and altruism, that simply this is what they are. As Rabbi Ashlag explaining, what about the others? As the community grows, as the company grows, as you get a big enough community that is strong enough, you can bring in the others, which means the Erev Rav-like people, the ones who complain, badmouth others, stuff like this. But now when you take them to work, because you need you need people to work with you. You need the experts, you need the professionals. So now, because the majority is already set up to be people with a high level of integrity, when you bring in people that are egotistic, and they are now part of the company or the community, because they are the minority, soon enough they will realize that people are sensitive enough to realize that they are selfish and they have agenda and they have the tendency to blame, to speak bad about other people. And because the majority doesn't like it, people they need, the highest level of our ego is to be that other people will like us. That's ego, but that's the evil inclination. However, Rabbi Ashlag is teaching a very important rule. You can find this rule in martial arts that you learn. Whoever learns martial arts, I learned a few times a little bit of it. The first thing you learn is that if somebody bigger than you and more powerful than you is running at you to attack you, never try to block them. Use their power and their acceleration, momentum against them, which means move aside and help them to move on the same direction. Like you see it also in the sterile place with the arena of bullfighting in Spain, and you see that you seduce the ox to run fast towards you, and then the last moment you move aside and you hit him with a with a spear or something like this, okay? Because he cannot, he's so heavy, he's so strong, he cannot change direction as fast as you can because you are lighter and you're faster because of that in changing direction. So, where were we? When one of the biggest needs of the human being's evil inclination is that other people will acknowledge us. So don't fight it because it's bigger than us. You can't fight it. There are many things in our evil inclination that you cannot fight them directly, head to head. You're not strong enough. How do you fight it? When somebody who has bad traits joins a community that people have a high level of integrity in that community and is one among a majority, because the trait that we have, that we'd like others to like us, the moment you realize people don't like it, when you blame others, when you badmouth others, when you tell jokes about others, when that person realizes that in the new company, people don't like it, you start to change. First, you change externally because you want others to like you, because every time you start to badmouth other people or to blame other people look at you as like, we don't do that. We don't do that. So yes, you can assimilate people and improve them, but you need to be a majority and a strong majority in doing that. Because if you're not the majority, you're going to lose. Because people will start to laugh at you and mock you because, oh, you are just, you just have this dream of a better world. Doesn't work like this. Wake up. You have to be really careful. That's what the Zohar is teaching us. This is what the Torah is teaching us. And that's the message of Parashat VaYak'hel. You need, first of all, because the world is full of egoistic people, you need to create your own community of like-minded people that at least inside your community, you have support, love, and understanding of people that really are there to give and to share. So what do? We learn also, that's again, modern research, that one of the biggest diseases of our society is loneliness. You want to improve, you want to rise above your tikkun, you want to rise above your dark side, you need other people's help. You cannot do it by yourself. No one can do it by himself. At least according to the Zohar, according to the Torah, you cannot do it by yourself. You learn all along the Torah, it's all done in groups and congregations. The greatest Kabbalists in history never dared to be in seclusion. You look at the great golden era of the Kabbalists of Safed in the 16th, 17th century. They all were in groups. You read about Rabbi Isaac Luria. He had about over 20 students. He divided them into groups, and which means small congregations, small groups that worked with each other. The point was that a human being, Rabbi Ashlag explained it, cannot raise himself above the darkness, above the evil inclination. You need a team to do it. You must have a team, a working team to do it. So how do I create a congregation? Either find a congregation to join or create your own congregation. How do I create my own congregation? So it says in the Ethics of the Fathers, make yourself a teacher and buy yourself a friend. You should buy your friends. You should buy your congregation. Just think about it. When you have a congregation anywhere, it's always built around people that really invested a lot in creating a space that feels safe, good, happy, exciting, and so on. So people came in to enjoy that space. Could be a synagogue, could be just a community center, could be just somebody's home that is a place of gathering. All of this happens because there were a few people or one person who was really creating that space. Could be also in a family. You have very successful family, but you always find that grandmother, grandfather, and aunt who were really making a real strong effort by making dinners, inviting people for holidays, Shabbat, events, stuff like this, making sure that these events were meaningful. And that's how the family was kept together. And when they died, okay, and nobody else was willing to give what they used to give, then the whole thing fell apart, right? Because if you don't invest in it, you have nothing to take out of it. So that is the point. So if you can find something like this around you, you create it on your own. So this is why the first thing that the Parashah talks about is about Shabbat. Because where are you going to, how do you create the congregation? First, the first thing to create a congregation is on Shabbat. That's where it's starting. The whole congregation revolves around Shabbat. So the moment you have a Shabbat, so then you have a Shabbat dinner. Just start with a Shabbat dinner. You don't have to invite a whole congregation. You can invite few people. You don't like all of them. Invite the next Shabbat only the ones who are likewise minded. Okay, you don't have to invite all of them. You can pick your choice. You can have 3 people, 4 people, 2 people. But after a while, if you really buy yourself a friend, you really invest in it, you have a bunch of people that you get together on Shabbat, talk, study the weekly Parashah, celebrate together, create a spiritual meeting, and you'll have a congregation. And you know what they say, 3 is a crowd. So the moment you have 3, it's already a beginning. And if they help you to put more energy and to invite more people, and so on, to get a bigger congregation, a bigger community, the main thing is when everybody is helping everybody else to rise above the evil inclination that we all have, because that's our job, that's our calling. We're not here to be perfect. We're not here to stay on Mount Sinai and to become angels. No, we're here to come back, as we said, into a physical body, fall and get up, slowly, slowly overcoming the darkness of the body consciousness, death, blame, shame, anger, hatred, selfishness, all of that stuff, and becoming the human being we were created to become. That is, as the Zohar is teaching us, can't do it by yourself. Whoever says he can do it by itself, I don't know if you heard about the Baron Munchausen tales about this guy who was like, he was saying he was grinding with his horse in a swamp till he got a genius idea and he pulled himself just with his hair. And he pulled himself and the horse out of the swamp. That's impossible. In order to pull yourself out of any swamp of darkness and negativity, you need supporting friends, family from outside the swamp. And that means you cannot do it on your own. That's why when you learn about the whole idea of the Torah about congregation, is that you need a minyan, 10 men, okay? Why can't I have 5 great people instead of 10 not so great people? Because that forces you to create a community, to listen to each other, to be there for others, one for all and all for one. This is the main idea, that if you really want to understand what are the most important tools for spiritual growth, it is about the community. So you have to give your life for it, because otherwise you can study the Zohar, that's great. You can study spirituality, you can do meditations without a community of people with integrity that support each other and push each other. Rabbi Ashlag is saying, when a person wants to get above himself, above, outside the box, you cannot generate enough light and energy to lift yourself, ascend above the darkness. The only way to do it is when you have few other people joining together, joining their energies together, joining their hearts together. And when everybody is for one person pushing him up, that ascension will happen. So you can find it also in his Rabbi Ashlag's legacy, in his last speech, his last teaching that was published was just a few months before he passed away, on when he celebrated in Lag BaOmer, the death anniversary of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He was celebrating the completion of his life work, which is printing the Zohar with the Perush, with the commentary of his commentary. And he said over there, now we have all the tools for the Messianic era. Remember that one tool is the study of the Zohar, and the other tool is about community work. And not just big, great communities, it's very nice when a community is great and big, but you need, like Rabbi Zachariah, to divide the community in a small, little micro communities of 3, 4, 5, up to 6, 7 people, no more than that, that basically serve as your own reference community, because these are the people that you really share your secret with. These are the people that when you are in need, they will push you forwards, they will coach you together so you can move up. Why it's not enough to have a rabbi? Why it's not enough to have a coach? As we said before, one coach cannot lift people high enough. And especially if a coach is a coach, he needs to make a living. So how many people can he lift up? He's only one person. It's impossible. The only way to do it is when you have few groups, when you have a group, and every coach is coaching few groups, but the people within the little micro community, they push each other. Only then, says Rabbi Ashlag, you have enough energy. You can have the critical amount of energy to get the quantum leap. What's quantum? You have enough energy, the minimal amount of energy to lift the person above. It's not one person's, never. It cannot be your teacher, and it cannot be just another person. It cannot be, of course, only your own energies. You need others to stick together, push and coach and move. Then you can get the quantum leap that you need. And then the next time, everybody gets together to lift somebody else. And that is how a spiritual journey looks like. So after Mount Sinai revelation, after the sin of the golden calf, after the sin is being forgiven and the 13 attributes come down with a second set of 2 tablets, now Moses is setting for us, this is how spiritual work looks like. So it starts with the community. You have to be aware that in the beginning stages, you cannot have egotistic people who are not committed for self-growth, who are not committed to overcome the blame and the shame and the hatred. You can't include them within. Only when it grows strong enough and big enough, then you can start to include them in. I remember once I was creating a community somewhere in the States, and this guy came in. He was over 60. He looked like the guy is being cooked in one of Purgatory's big pots. He was always he looked like this. He was going through a very hard lifetime, and he was always complaining, always. He came because he looked for something that is maybe spiritual, maybe it was too lonely. And he wanted a support. But luckily, the people I gathered already were smart enough, wise enough, loving enough to learn to put him in place. And every time he was complaining, say, oh, you're complaining again. No, I'm not complaining, I'm not complaining. And within a few months, he became the most funny, full of energy person, full of light and love and giving, caring, and he lived for many more years with happiness and laughter, because the community simply taught him to stop blaming, to stop complaining, just to be happy and just to create this happiness. And you need, if you feel that your life is not moving forward fast enough, it's not moving forward at all, you need to join a community or create one. And that's a very important message. The other message, which is not the time right now, but which most of Parashat VaYak'hel is about the work of the temple. And the work of the temple is, today we don't have the work of the temple like it says clearly here in the Torah. So we learn from the Zohar and from our sages, Uneshalma farim sfateinu. We will offer, instead of oxen, we will offer the words of our mouth. And what does it mean? Prayers. And the meaning of prayer and the importance of prayer is so unique and so powerful, but not for today. If you want, you can simply go to the site and look for the Kabbalah prayer course. And before, if you didn't learn meditation course, which is basically before the prayer, today, the meditations and the prayers are very, very important as our way to improve ourselves and also to do our work in improving the whole of humanity, because prayer replaces the work of the temple as long as the temple is not there yet. Thank you so much and have a great week.